I suppose that in every garage I've ever worked in, there's always been one car who's been difficult to get on with and thought himself better than anyone else. Well, Top Gear Motors is no exception. We've got old Blunderbus, the old Stutz Bearcat. He's really quite a danger. Thinks rules on the road are a load of rubbish, and he has the most terrible motto for himself. But a few weeks ago he learned his lesson. It was the end of a busy day at our place. I was just returning from my usual jaunt with Mr. McIntosh. Bert was cleaning Snoopy Sneer after a wedding. Snoopy Sneer was still feeling humiliated at having to clatter down the road with 3 tin cans tied to his back bumper. Japonica was resting after taking a business delegation to an exhibition. The only one with enough energy to talk was Blunderbus. He was showing off, as usual, to a row of motorbikes, telling them how clever he was. "What you youngsters need to know," he was saying, "is how to get the best out of life. Take me, for example," he bragged. "I don't care about anyone else on the road. Make way for me. That's my motto. It gets me places." Bert overheard him. He put his cloth down for a moment and leaned on Snoopy Sneer. "No wonder we're always having to beat dents and scratches out of you," he said.
"And no wonder we're always getting complaints from other drivers and cars,"
said Mr. Rumbelow, the manager, who'd just come in.
"Your motto may please you, but it doesn't please anyone else."
"It gets me where I want to go," said Blunderbus brazenly. "But for how long, I wonder?" Japonica said softly to herself. The motorbikes were laughing and enjoying the argument. "Tell us some more," they giggled. "Well," said Blunderbus, "my most exciting adventure was not long ago. My driver was in a hurry. He had an urgent appointment. I wasn't going to waste my time nosing politely through traffic, so, said the motorbikes, and even Bert looked interested. "So I took my opportunity," said Blunderbuss smugly. "It was obvious what to do. The other side of the road was practically clear. I just zoomed over the double white line and overtook about half a mile of traffic on a bend in next to no time." The whole garage full of cars gasped with disbelief and amazement. Mr. Rumbelow said dryly,
"And what about the end of the story, Blunderbuss? You haven't told them that."
Blunderbuss looked angry for a moment, then he brightened. "You mean the chase?" he said. "Oh, of course, there was a chase. Most exciting." "You mean the police?" the motorbikes asked. "Why, yes, police, of course. What do you expect? I felt quite a hero."
"I didn't mean the chase," insisted Mr. Rumbelow. "I meant the end of the story."
Blunderbuss's face fell. "Well, there was this car, didn't see me coming, careless driver, no doubt. She swerved to avoid me and crashed. Practically a write-off." "And the people?" said Mr. Rumbelow patiently. Yes, well, the people. Yes, I expect they were hurt, no doubt a fuss. But I was lucky, not a scratch. That is skillful driving. I could see it was getting a bit hot, so I slipped back amongst the traffic and managed to lose myself in the crowd. Got my passenger to his appointment on time. Oh, yes. Make way for me is a good motto to have.
"And I've been dealing with claims, telephone calls, and the police ever since,"
roared Mr. Rumbelow.
"And for your information, Your passenger may have got to his appointment on time, but he says that never again, under any circumstances, will he hire a car from us. Rules are rules, and they are there for a purpose. Your safety and everybody else's. You may escape without a scratch, but think of the damage you may do to everyone else.
Blunderbuss refused to look ashamed. He winked at the motorbikes and then whispered something to them. Bert thought he heard, "You just see tomorrow." The next morning was foggy. Visibility was down to a few yards, and even pedestrians kept bumping into each other. Mr. Rumbelow and Bert were fussing around the cars and drivers, warning them to be careful.
"You two,"
Mr. Rumbelow bellowed across the garage to Blunderbuss.
"In fact, particularly you."
Blunderbuss was angry. "Why pick on me?" he muttered.
"Rules, rules, rules. That's all they think of. Kids' stuff."
His driver arrived, and they set off slowly through the local street market. The stalls of apples, oranges, potatoes, and cabbages made a colourful scene. They drove to a quiet road to pick up their passenger. They were taking him into the country to a vintage car rally. "Don't fancy the journey much myself," the man said as he got in. "Let's hope this fog will lift soon."
"That's all right, sir," the driver said. "We'll take care of you."
Blunderbuss snorted till his engine shook. "We'll take care of you," he mimicked. "We'll see," he added. "We're driving my way today." At the first traffic lights, Blunderbuss shot across just as it turned red. "I'm not stopping for anyone!" he roared. He laughed as he heard two cars skid into each other to avoid him. "Make way for me!" he roared. As they left the town, the fog thinned a little and visibility increased. Through the swirls of fog, they could see glimpses of animals in fields, cows munching kale, and sheep sheltering behind hurdles. Winding lanes took the place of broad roads, and even Blunderbuss knew that he had to be careful. But soon he got bored. Nothing but hedges and ghostly trees looming up out of the fog. No other traffic, no signs, no lights. "No rules," thought Blunderbuss to himself excitedly, and roared forward. It was then that they met the new postal bus. Suddenly round a corner, they came face to face. Blunderbuss braked hard and swerved. There was nothing else he could do to avoid a head-on collision. Straight through a hedge he blundered with a crackle of breaking branches. With a shudder and a roll, he pulled up by some sheep pens. The sheep all panicked and poured through a gap in the fence and out into the lane. The shepherd and the driver of the postal bus ran up shouting, "You were driving too fast!" They both shouted together. "Too fast! Look at the damage you've done!" "You'll have to pay compensation for this hedge," roared the shepherd. 2 weeks it took laying that edge, and goodness knows what the shock has done to some of my sheep. Soon the police arrived. To Blunderbus it seemed endless. The repeated questions, statements, and measuring the skid marks. Blunderbus himself had a broken suspension and a buckled bonnet and felt very knocked about. Hours later, it was a very subdued Blunderbus who was towed back from the country by rattle wagon through the street market home to Top Gear Motors. Mr. Rumbelow, Bert, and all the other cars heard the story. Blunderbus felt very ashamed. "I am very sorry," he said. "I can see how selfish I've been. Make way for me is not a good motto after all." Well, there's not much more for me to add, but I'd like to know something. Do you humans have rules to keep? Why do you need them? Who gets hurt if you disobey them?